She must be the. She must be the.
Let's just go back.
What's that?
Go ahead.
I bet you they're right in there.
Charles Reed Bishop built the museum in her honor and placed it on the grounds of the Kamehameha Schools. Kamehameha Schools is no longer here because both the museum and the school grew a lot. And so now Kamehameha is up on the hillside, and the museum includes not just this building, which is the original building of the museum, but it includes the Science Adventure Center, which talks about the scientific viewpoint of life in Hawaii. Here we're talking about the cultural viewpoint. And then we also have the place where non-Hawaiian things can go, like dinosaurs in Castle Building. And so those are the main visitor places. Oh, and the planetarium too. But there are lots of they found interesting places that perhaps some of their groups could live on. And it was because of their devotion to improving the sailing, the traditional sailing that they had done, that they were able to then come and cross many, many miles. Because Hawaii is the most isolated island in the world. We are farthest away from any other population. And that's one of the reasons why when foreigners first came here, a lot of Hawaiians died. It's because they didn't have any immunity to some of the sicknesses that were part of the rest of the world. But back to the story of how they came to be here. A really long time ago, there were huge ice caps. And because of that, the ocean was low. When the ocean was low, people were actually able to walk from Asia across here, going into Australia. But that was 65,000 years ago. But then the ice melted, the seas rose, and these people all became separated. And when you become separated, you start to do things differently. So, seas had rose, everybody stayed put. Then, about 4,000 years ago, people must have wanted to find something new. They started coming across, looking. And in the beginning, they don't have to go far. Because look at all these islands, they're pretty close to each other. And so they could just sail out for the day. If they didn't find anything, they could turn and go back. But they learned how to do that at great distances from the things that they're going to talk about in the planetarium. The wind, the stars, the currents, and the birds. Now, the stars will be talked about in the planetarium. They're so important because that's how people determine where they are. The wind has a pattern usually. And one of the things is that up here, it's usually blowing in this direction. And because it's usually blowing in this direction, they sailed into the wind And if they didn't find something pretty soon, they could turn around and take advantage of the wind pushing them home. Another thing I told you about was the birds. There are many birds that live on islands. And in the morning, they wake up and they say, "Oh, I need to find breakfast." So they go flying. And you see them flying out and going looking over the sea to see if they can find something to eat. And in the evening, if they've been flying out over the sea all day, they come back. So if you see a bunch of birds, you might think, oh, these guys are headed for an island if it's the evening, or these guys just came from an island if it's the morning. And then you can look more closely right there. So that's one of the things. And then the currents. I'm not a person of the sea, so I don't understand this very well. But when the water hits a body, like a hard body, like an island, it bounces back. But it doesn't just bounce back a little bit, it bounces back a long way. And the people of the sea, these navigators, they knew how to tell when that was happening. So they could kind of feel the water's coming back from that certain place, let's go there. And so that's one of the things they did. And then they would make these trips many times, and then they would tell their people, okay, this is the way you do it, and this is what you should expect. So if you practice over and over, you get better and better. And so each trip would make them better and better. And so then they lived together here for quite some time, and then they moved into this area, and they found all these little islands. But they were just crazy people. They wanted to go far, so they went to Rapa Nui, they went to Aotearoa, and they came up here to Hawaii. Now, because we now do testing with DNA, we know that some of them didn't find any islands. They ended up all the way over here in South America. How do we know that? Somebody did testing on the chickens that were on their canoe, because the chickens come from Malaysia, which is way back over here. And that's the kind of chickens that have been spread across the Pacific by these navigations. And there's a panel over there that talks to you about all the fruits and animals that were spread by these canoes coming across. And so they say, okay, we found those chicken bones all the way over there. And the other thing is, there's a sweet potato that comes from South America around here. And it made its way all the way back to New Guinea. And it did that way before Europeans even left Europe. It hadn't even come to South America. Well, sweet potatoes look a lot like kalo. And so if you were a sailor and you had missed your islands, you would be pretty hungry by the time you got all the way this way. And so then you would say, oh, I need to find some food to eat. And the people living there would say, here's what we have. Oh yeah, that looks great. So they took it back. And the word that's part of the original language, I think it's Quechua, the word is something like kumar. And in New Zealand, that sweet potato is called kumara. So it's very similar. So that's how this settlement in the Pacific happened. Happened a little bit, and it happened a little bit more, and a little bit more. And it didn't happen just once. So even though we're far away, they went back and forth and back and forth. But then about 1,400 years ago, no, about 1,400, it stopped. It just stopped. And they don't know yet why. That's one of the research things we're looking at. So the people who came to Hawaii had lived first in the Marquesas, and then another group came that had lived in Tahiti. Tahiti is here in the Society Islands. So I want to take you over into Hawaiian Hall now for two reasons. To show you how the Hawaiians lived, when they got here, and also to show you the beauty of Hawaii. Oh, before we leave, does anybody have any questions for me? Okay, so this is the most beautiful part, I think. Any of the things that are inside of cabinets are just, I mean, even though they may be very expensive, but the hall itself is so exquisite. They planned this after having traveled in Europe and seeing the kind of museums that they had there. And so they wanted it to be grand like this. And they also wanted it to represent Hawaii. And so all of the designs that you see in here are Hawaiian designs. You have the designs on the pillars, the cast iron pillars. On the top is the flutes, and on the bottom, this one is the tattoo design. And then on the other floors, it's different. And then you have the design that's woven into the grillwork underneath the cabinets. And it's different on both floors. Then at the top of the arches of each one of the arches is a figure known as Kalai Kapoa. Kalai Kapoa is translated as the poison god. The poison god meaning Kahuna Ana Ana, a sorcerer, who is preyed on this after having gotten some tiny bit of a person's hair or something else from that person, and they would try to cause that person to be sick or die. And so that image has a power in it, kind of like the gargoyles of Europe. And that's how that image came to be chosen. And the other thing that's so impressive is the whale. Charles Reed Bishop wanted to have a museum. He thought it was important to have a whale. Now, it's not because Hawaii had ever hunted whales, but when the foreigners arrived, that was what one of the reasons they hunted whales. So they looked good. The person who was the director of the museum asked one of those important science catalog companies to film a whale, and got this whale. And the bones and the teeth are real, and you will see it when you go around to the other side. This side is paper mache. And so a few years ago there was a renovation, and they were thinking, well, you know, the whaling thing is not part of Hawaiian way of doing things. So do we really want the whale? Well, every person who ever came here in the 4th grade, which is the year that they come, remembers it, and when they bring their kid back, when the kid is little, they say, oh yeah, I remember the whale. It's like the whale is the most important thing. So the whale stayed, but they added other things that would have been in the sea as well. And so we have the shark over there, and we have the ray over here, a spotted ray. And then we have actual stuffed honu, or turtles, up here. And we have way up higher stuffed birds. On this end we have the eagle bird, and there's the male eagle bird with the red. If you go to the first one, you can see over on that in the albatross. Oh, and there are fish. Two big blue fish down there. the reason, part of the reason for doing that is because they wanted to make this place look at life from a Hawaiian perspective. So by adding those others, what they're showing you is these are the things we find in our ocean. And so now that you're in the hall, the first floor is talking about foundational things and the beliefs in gods and stuff like that. Third floor is talking about the monarchs and the people of the royal class, or the ali'i. And in Hawaiian society, there were two classes of people. There were the ali'i, and then there were all the other people who are the maka'inana, or the commoners. And the ali'i class, it's not like these days where anybody can be anything. No. You were born a commoner, you stayed a commoner. You were born ali'i, you stayed ali'i. And so things were separated, and you could only the ali'i could have anything to do with whales. So that's another thing. The whale is up there on the third floor. I mean, it's closest to the third floor, which all parts of the whale were reserved for the ali'i. But this is a sperm whale. Sperm whales are not usually found here. Our biggest whale is the humpback. And the humpback whale often, not very often, the way you would get parts of him is because they would die and they would beach themselves, or they would be found by the fishermen out, and then you could get that. But all of the parts of the whale had to be reserved for the ali'i. This floor is basically about the commoners. This is life in Hawaii before the arrival of foreigners. And so this talks about how we get food, how we store things, there's tools, and then there's making mats and making cloth, and then entertaining ourselves. And there are so many important things that you could see, but I need to tell you about two of them so that when I'm finished you can go and look at them. Down there is a cloak which was worn by Kalaniʻōpuʻu, the high chief in the area where Captain Cook first landed. Captain Cook landed during a time when the god Lono was in charge of things, and Captain Cook's ship looked a lot like the Lono image that was used during the celebration of his appearance. So people thought Captain Cook was the god Lono, and they treated him with such great deference. And they gave him a lot of ahu'ula, or cloaks. And this one is just the one that came from the highest chief. So you should take some time and go see that.
Where is it?
It's right down there. It's the red and yellow.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And so he had a very nice time. And then he re-provisioned his ship and went on his way. But something happened to his ship and he had to come back. And when he came back, it was no longer Lono season. He was expecting to be treated with that same deference, but it wasn't. They then questioned, is this a god? Is it a god? But it's Lono's one. And that's one thing that's very important. The other is the protest quilt that you find up here. The protest quilt is a letter written to one of the kings by a citizen. The citizens of Hawaii were very engaged with their government, and they were obviously very great craftsmen too. They wrote a message into that quilt and asked him to relieve them from this new tax he had imposed on animals. Well, that king died before this could be delivered, so it ended up being a gift given to the subsequent king. The tax, however, was never rescinded. And the staff here has done a really good job in showing how the letters are incorporated. So if you go up there, you can see they've shown you how all the letters are built to make them readable, and they've written the Hawaiian out and given you a translation. So you can see that the citizens are asking, please release us from this tax. Yeah. And so those are the two things that I don't want you to leave until you check those two out. And if you have to go to the planetarium, I think it's a good idea for you to go now. No planetarium. Okay, I think those guys are ready for planetarium. But let's come over here quickly. Come inside, please. And then if some people want to walk around, they can. The primary protein for Hawaii was fish, came from the sea, because there were no land animals before the Polynesians brought pigs. But a pig takes a long time to grow, and the Polynesians also brought chickens, and so chickens were available, but still it was the sea that provided the protein. And there were perhaps 1 million people living in Hawaii when the foreigners arrived. Now there's just a little bit over 1 million now. Can you imagine that many people being sustained without having a flight come in from another place to bring in food? Most of our food nowadays is brought in from outside. We couldn't last more than a week, I think, without food coming in. So one of the things you should know is that the fishing was at a very highly sourced. I can't go any further. I'm going to talk to you about the fishing. This is the kind of hook fishing that you would expect. And here we have a squid lure. Squid lures attract, it's called a squid lure, but it's really for octopus. And the octopus comes and sits on top of it because that's its favorite food. Mm-hmm. And then it gets, the fisherman feels that something is on his lure, and he jerks it, and the octopus gets stuck on the barb. So that's how you catch the octopus. And then there's just so many different hooks. But there's also the net. Now this would have been the kind of net that you would have thrown out and been able to get many fish. But then there's also these other smaller nets. And one of the grand things that Hawaiians did was they would, wherever the land would kind of make a little inlay, they would create a fish pond by building a wall between the sides of the outer part, and then there would be this natural saltwater resource that the fish go, and they would put a gate. So most of it would be rock, but then they would put a gate called a sluice gate, and the little fish would swim in to eat the algae, the seaweed that was growing inside, and it was protected. And then what happens is the little fish grow bigger. Now they're getting bigger and bigger, and eventually they get too big to go out the openings of the sluice gate. And when that happens, then you harvest those guys, and then you just continually take care of the fish pond in order to have a sustainable source for food all along. And we have, there are now 2 fish ponds that you can go and visit and have a work day there that are here on this island, but there are many restored on the island of Molokai and some on the island of Maui. But for the longest time, they weren't kept up. If any of you are out in the Hawaii Kai area, that was originally a fish pond. Yeah. So that was the primary protein, and of course you know the primary starch was poi. Poi that comes from kalo. Now, how long have you guys been here?
4 or 5 days.
Okay, have you eaten poi yet?
No, but I want to try it. I saw they have it in the cafe.
Oh, yes, they do. They do. Yes, right. Okay, I'm going to just take you over there, and that's the last part I'm going to show you. Yes, this is the kalo plant, or in the other parts of the Pacific, they call it taro. Kalo is basically a crop and this is the most precious part of it is this corm. And the corm is harvested, take off these roots that come out from it, and then you just take the little keiki, or the little shoot right here, and break it off, and then you cut a piece like this, and you use that, and both of those can be planted back into the lo'i, or the little wet place that you're growing the kalo, and in 9 months you're going to have another plant just like this. So this is the primary thing that's used, and you also can eat the leaves. But the plant has oxalic crystals in it, and if you don't cook it really good, you're going to get itchy. So you have to make sure you cook it well, both parts of it. And then once the corm is cooked, basically in Hawaii, what people do is put it onto the papakui'ai, and with the pounder, ohaku, and just pound it away, and then add a little water. And you can go to farmers markets now, and someone is probably going to be pounding poi. It's much more common than it used to be. And that pounded poi that you get when it's you just saw them do it, that's my favorite. Because the other way of having it is like you wait for it to get sour. And sour poi is what a lot of people like to eat. So it's like fermented for 3 days. Yeah.
What does it taste like? Is it like a potato kind of taste? Like a bland?
It's very bland. Mm-hmm. And then because you're not accustomed to it, it's kind of, it's like people who've never had peanut butter, and the first time they have peanut butter, it's like, whoa, what was that in my mouth? But that's what it's like. So here in Hawaii, people who don't like poi sometimes put sugar in it. Mm-hmm. And
yeah. Okay.
Take it from here.
Okay, got it.
okay.
So try it without it.
We have to try it without. Like this.
Yeah. And the thing about it, most people don't like to eat poi just like this. And no, eat the poi with the lomi salmon, because the lomi salmon is very salty, and then the poi is bland, and two together, they cancel out each other. And then even the kalua pig down there is pretty salty. So when you get that plate, take a little bit of the poi with a little bit of that. And the haupia is wonderful, so make sure you get the haupia. That's the dessert, a little coconut. And so I love the leaf, but they don't sell any luau there. Luau is the name for the leaf when it first comes out. And then I don't know how it became the name for the party, but the luau is, you just cook it until it falls apart. It's like collard greens or something. And other places they add coconut milk to it. I just like to cook it and put it with a pork butt and mix it up. It's called luau stew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So those are the two primary foods that were part of Hawaiian diet. And all of those plants that you think of as being Hawaiian, most of them are canoe plants that came on the canoe. But then the more modern ones, those are the ones that are newly introduced, like a papaya. Yeah, that's newly introduced. Well, I need to wrap it up for you and let you go and eat your lunch. Now, you know that there's no lava pour in the Science Adventure Center today. But the Science Adventure Center is fun anyway. It's got all the bugs that you want to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks so
welcome.
much.
Thank you. Very informative. Thank
It's
you.
very important. Thank you.